unregularradio.com.
Welcome to Hotheads, where activism happens on regular radio every Saturday, 3:30 p.m. This is one of your hosts, Mike Cann, in the studio with a good group of people today. And my sidekick for the beginning of the show, third week we're doing this now, the news with KC Hoye. What's wrong with us today?
I don't know.
That's kind of what we saw.
I've got such a head cold, it's not even funny.
We know what's wrong with you. You're sick. You are sick. And she's still here. She's like, I couldn't let you down on the third week, Mike. I'm here.
Do it. I'll tell you on week 12 how I feel. But for week 3, I'm here, and I mean it.
Yeah. And the last couple of weeks, I've got my ass kicked by pain, back pain. No
you got
energy.
a rough job.
Yeah, I got too rough a job for my back. And last week, I thought I got fired from it because I missed a meeting. I was so fucking tired, I couldn't even get up for the meeting.
Yeah.
And I get in there, and it turned out like 6 people missed this thing at the at work.
Yep.
And I was the only one who didn't get talked to or written up because obviously I'm the hardest worker. So it turned out good, but I have no energy, and hopefully I'll have a new job soon that won't kill my body like killing. If I have low energy today, that's why. Just tired. But we're not tired of this show, though, are we?
No, not by a long shot, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, no, this is the thing that...
I love being here so much that through the miasma of sickness,
I know.
I showed up, and I typed things, and I am here.
That's the other thing, too, thinking today. I was like, man, if I was going to work today, I'd be so miserable, but...
Nope.
I'll be low energy at the best place I like to be, which is on regular radio, doing this show every week. So
absolutely,
we're here, we're ready. We got quite a few people in the studio. We got Nikki and Tom. Nikki Smokes just showed up. I thought it was Tommy, and now I'm looking up, and it's actually Dan Fishman.
I didn't dress up for you.
Dan Fishman for Senate is here. He isn't on the mic yet, but we'll be talking to him in a little bit. And we also have. Michael Malta, the King of Pot, is in the studio. Say hello, King of Pot.
Hello everybody.
And we have Spencer's also here. He's going to be doing some posting on our Facebook page today on what we're doing. And we got Scotty Hacker, and we also have Mrs. Malta, who I love. She's now a brunette. I haven't seen her in a while. Valerie Malta. We'll be talking to both of them a little bit later in the show. But we should get right to what we're going to get into on the show today. Tell everyone what we're doing, and then get to the news, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. As you know, we just announced it. We weren't sure if this was definitely happening, but he's in the studio, so it's definitely happening. We have a candidate for U.S. Senate coming up in the after this first break in the news. We're going to do an interview with the one who this is the only person. I'm saying the one because I'm looking at the rest of these candidates for U.S. Senate, and I just shake my head at it all. We're going to get into that with KC Hoye.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag.
We got the only one I think I can support is Dan Fishman for U.S. Senate, live in the studio today. We'll be taking your phone calls, discussing the issues with him. The phone number is 617-606-3700. And later on, we'll also talk to Valerie Vande. She's a journalist with the Boston Phoenix. We've been discussing her latest story, which was about Got a Connection.
Yep.
And then recently the BHO story came out on butane hash oil.
Yes.
It was a very kind of controversial story.
Yes.
Thought it brought a lot of good education. We're going to talk to her about that story a little later in the show. So we got a full show. We got a lot going on. So why don't we get right to the news? And what do we have for headlines this week, Casey?
So in headlines, it's been a really interesting week, especially in Massachusetts politics. But just to kind of widen the scope a little bit, according to Reuters, White House has directed open access to government research. The White House has moved to make the results of federally funded research available to the public for free within a year, bowing to public pressure for unfettered access to scholarly articles and other materials produced at the taxpayer's expense. Americans should have easy access to the results of research they help support, John Holdren, the director of White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, wrote on the White House website.
Wow.
Yep. An online petition drew over 65,000 signatures. The directive comes amid a changing landscape for publishing and the availability of information due to the internet. So, the White House has also came some The White House move also came some 6 weeks after the suicide of internet openness activist Aaron Swartz, who's renowned for making a trove of information freely available on the internet.
I'm going to correct you because it's actually my correction.
Swartz.
We got to say his name right.
It's Swartz, right?
Is it? It's Swartz.
Yeah.
I think I've been saying it wrong for weeks.
Yeah.
Is it Swartz?
I think it's Swartz.
All right. I think you said it right. I always say it wrong. I say Swartz or something like that.
I say Schwartz, but I have a list.
You're sick today.
I also have a list. I'm missing a bunch of teeth for those of you out there in radio land.
If anyone wants to correct us on his name and make sure we're saying it right, please do so. But you know who we're talking about. I'm so glad you're leading with this story. I think Frank Capone actually posted
Frank Capone actually posted on the TWO HOTHEADS group, and
he always alerts us to news stories. Frank and Garrett are always good at bringing out those news stories, and this is a big one because we go after the president's office, whether it's a Republican or Democrat. We're Democrat the last 5 years now, and Obama, we often go after him. And wow, it's good to see every once in a while. Like we were praising Elizabeth Warren a couple weeks ago for this very issue, and it's good to see that some of the Democrats are actually listening to what's happening in the landscape out there and to react to Aaron's death. I mean, it's
a shame it had to wait that long.
I know.
I mean, I hate to state the obvious, but
we had to lose him. Like I was talking to a lot of friends about this, that they don't know anything about Aaron, and then you start telling them about who he was, what he did. When we talked to Ben, a few weeks ago, Ben Wickler, it's just amazing to realize how gifted he really was at such a young age, and how many people he lifted up, he inspired, he helped, he supported. And the things that he did that nobody even knew about, like he wasn't taking credit. He had done so much, and that we had to lose him. As if you're patriotic as an American, why would you want to lose your best 27-year-old? I mean, we killed Bill Gates, better than Bill Gates.
Yeah,
like Bill Gates, what did he do? He stole some technology and created Microsoft Windows. Yeah, he stole it from somebody else. And this man, stole information for us, and now it's coming out that the people he stole the information from to provide it to the public, JSTOR, they've released the documents. Yep, they're providing the information,
and now it's going to be federally mandated that federal research be published.
We need to keep up the pressure. They're hearing us. They're listening,
and hopefully we don't lose anybody else like that. In order for something like this to happen, like it's an amazing and bold move. But it's a damn shame that we lost such a valuable person, much less a resource.
And it's easy to get depressed about this too, because I do on this very subject. I mean, because at the same time, we have that great news, right? That's great news. Let's not discount that at all, because I think it is very important, great news. But at the same time, Bradley Manning, just pleaded guilty.
Yeah.
He's going to go to jail for a long time.
Yep.
I'm calling him dead. I mean, if he ends up dead in jail, whether it's next week or 25 years from now, he might as well be dead.
Yeah, when people forget about him, he's going to disappear.
I know. And Barrett Brown. Like, we need to free these people. Hammond. There's a bunch of them. They should not be in jail. This is really out of hand, and we got to continue to hammer it.
Yeah.
So was that the end of the story?
That was the end of the story about Swartz.
Well, that's good news. So where was that story again? Tell us the headline and where you found it.
It's White House directs open access for government research, and you can find it on Reuters.
Reuters, Reuters.
Yep, and actually, there's an open debate on how that's actually pronounced. Like we're at 50-50 right now on whether or not it's Reuters or Reuters.
I know, huh? That's another one.
That's another one.
Who knows?
Potato.
Maybe they need an organizational spokesperson to come out and tell us how to say it.
Just how do you actually say it?
Yeah.
Because people have been cocking it up for a minute.
It's a bit. That's like AP. It's a big organization. Okay.
So next up, we have candidates for the special election. I pulled some news stories about each one. There's some new stuff and there's some old stuff. Specifically, Stephen Lynch is...
this is for U.S. Senate out of Massachusetts.
Yep.
Democrat.
Stephen Lynch is kind of sort of coming under fire because the story is spreading that he did not sign the amicus brief from the lion's share of the congressional Democrats against the Defense of Marriage Act.
What is
So
that?
he's saying that it was like an email glitch. But Lynch, regardless of his problems in the past with LGBT issues, has been rock solid on same-sex marriages in the position of DOMA. If you haven't noticed, he's been traveling the land trying to convince Democratic primary voters of his liberal credentials. There is no way in the middle of a U.S. Senate primary that he is intended to be off of that list.
So it's probably a screw up.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what? Like, I'm more interested to see where he stands on marijuana legalization.
and this is like, I mean, this is
You know
sort
what I
of
mean?
one of those like
And the banks.
Mass Live is a notoriously right-wing blog here in Mass, and I mean they run some good stories. They ran a great story a couple of weeks
They're
ago.
pretty good, actually.
About how medical marijuana may lean in the way of Albuquerque.
Yep.
In the way of New Mexico, rather.
I like Mass Live. Then some,
some of their stuff's really good.
They're conservative. I'm a conservative. So, let's think about Stephen Lynch, though. It's like,
I think there are more important things on the table as to whether or not he did or did not sign a brief that he's proven that he's against.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like
he's pretty. I talked to him about the medical and the marijuana legalization on WBZ Dan Ray. You know, and it was 2 against 1, them against me. You know, and I got along with them, and we had a great conversation. We thanked each other in the end, and he listened. Like, for the first time, you could see Stephen Lynch actually like, damn, I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to figure this out because here's someone who's reasonable presenting it to me. Yeah. You know, and so I hope that he'll come around on legalization.
Yep.
I hope that he corrects himself on Fast and Furious, where he defended the president and the ATF, and you know, because it was a partisan issue. I hope that he continues to come out against the banks. I actually like Stephen Lynch in a lot of respects, but you know,
you're about to get a whole lot more of them.
In many more respects, I don't. So what about him?
Him and Markey have agreed to face off in 6 debates over the next 9 weeks. So we'll be seeing quite a bit more of those two, which is exciting.
You think so? It would have been exciting if Ed Markey had debated John Cunningham when I first met Frank Capone. He was working for Republican John Cunningham to try to get him elected for U.S. Senate against Ed Markey, and Ed Markey wouldn't debate him, and he debated him once at like a cable access show at like 10 a.m. that no one was watching. You know what I mean? Like Ed Markey, it's like, oh, now you'll debate?
Yeah.
Or will you debate Dan Fishman? Like, that's what I want to see. Like, I don't want to see, I don't give a shit. I won't even really watch anymore when he debates the Republicans. You know, like
well, I mean,
it's just not exciting.
When they're battling for the primary, it's like you have 2 guys who are talking about the same talking points and how they're going to execute them. That's one. It's not entertaining, and 2, it's not very educational because everything's going to change once they're in office.
I know, and they never ask the questions that you never hear. The media always asks those same stupid questions. Like everyone's a fucking soccer mom. Everyone has a demographic, but. Where's my marijuana legalization
What are your views on
question?
tax reform?
Yeah. Where's my question about the banks? Where's my question about real reforms that can take place?
Yeah, exactly.
Like when Dan Fishman comes on, he brings up things like he talks about doctors. That just blows my mind for healthcare.
Yeah.
And it's like, where is that? It's never there.
Yeah.
It's boring.
I mean, I'm interested to see what Markey has to say about, since we passed the sequestration deadline, what anybody who's going to be coming into office has to say about that implementation. Because granted, it's not going to be fast coming in, but, I mean, we're talking 60,000 jobs. We're talking 280,000 school grants for veterans and nurses.
You're talking not even a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
We're in a system where we're borrowing our own money.
Yeah.
Like before, we used to actually borrow it from the Chinese and the Saudis.
Yeah.
They're not lending us money anymore.
No.
The bank is lending money to itself.
Yeah.
And they're talking about cutting their budget by 25 cents a month.
Yeah.
Comparatively to someone like us, like in there hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt per person. I mean,
yeah,
this is a joke. We're talking about crumbs. So now we're supposed to fight about crumbs. Is that what you're? I'm not concerned.
Well,
we're fucked way worse than any sequester or whatever. I'm not even going to learn how to say the word.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the 60,000 jobs.
How meaningless
That's what I'm concerned about.
How meaningless the public debate. I'm concerned about 60 million jobs.
Yeah, well, I mean,
not 60,000, 60 million.
I'm just talking about here in Massachusetts.
I'm talking about in this country, nobody has a fucking job.
Yeah,
that's coming. That it's not a matter of. I think people need to wake the fuck up. It's not a matter of when. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. It's going to happen now.
Well, I mean, that kind of like I don't know if that goes without saying, but the immediate effect of what's going on in the next 2 years, 2 to 4 years, is that it's another 60,000 jobs cut in Massachusetts, and it's even more federal funding for education being cut. And this isn't like education implementation. This is like kids, like people who came back here from war cannot go to school in the fall. They come back because, like, with PTSD, with all these other issues, they're supposed to go into training. They're supposed to be going into job programs, and now that's not available to them.
What happens when that happens to everybody all at once?
And what happens,
Dan Fishman's here.
Yeah, the other thing about it is what happens if why does the money have to not be spent? The money has to not be spent because the federal government doesn't have it. There's nothing to say that the state can't step up in this situation and address these programs that are going to be cut. They say, 5,000 kids in Massachusetts are going to lose out on a Head Start. Who's to say that we in Massachusetts can't say, you know what? It's an important program to us. We can step up and fund it right here. Doesn't have to be funded with federal taxpayer
money. And why
money.
can't we create our own state bank to do that too?
The federal government, if we're going to talk about alternative
like
currencies,
seriously, you're talking about little band-aids. We need to recreate the whole system.
I just haven't seen anything on a state response.
We need it.
That is going to fix it. You know what I mean?
I completely agree with you, and then I think that the states are missing out here on a tremendous opportunity to say, this is what we want. We're not saying that money shouldn't be spent on public goods. We're saying that when we send money to Washington, what happens is Washington spends it in a terrible way. I like the fact that the president said the other day that these are dumb cuts. He's 100% right. These are dumb cuts. But you know why they're dumb cuts? Because the way we spend money is incredibly dumb. We throw money at issues without any accountability whatsoever.
Yeah.
And if you look at the waste that's happening in the federal government, it should not be shocking that people say, listen, we support the basic ideas of what's happening in terms of our social safety net, but we think that these issues are too important right now to let the federal government take care of them because there's no oversight in a country of 330 million people at the federal level. When we spend money in the states, we have no idea where it's going.
Yeah.
But if we spend money within Massachusetts or if we spend money in our local communities, we have a lot better feel for how that's going on.
Absolutely.
And I would be harping on this a lot less, and I would be less concerned about it if there were more active moves on the state government level to say this is how we're going to spend the money. Like this, we're going to start putting money towards this.
How we're going to
like,
raise the money too?
Exactly. Where are the revenue streams?
Yeah, and not just taxation. Like, we should start looking at our government as an actual, look at it like Harvard University.
Yeah.
Harvard University doesn't need to tax to become...
$1 billion endowment plan and a 100-year business plan.
Yeah. We can do this in
And
Massachusetts.
they don't pay any taxes.
Yeah. And then does the state of Mass pay any taxes?
Nope.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's turn our states into endowment programs. And there's easy things we can do with banking, number one. Create stake banks and make sure it's transparent and that you do invest in your local state. That's the idea of it.
To a certain extent, we have that idea in the idea of a credit union. A credit union is, a collection of people who come together and say, as a community, we want to lend money amongst ourselves. I applaud that idea. I think that a personal credit union is a great way to do it because, again, there's accountability. You think what went wrong with the banks. The problem was the banks were investing in these crazy long-shot loans with the idea that the federal government would bail them out no matter what they did. You don't hear anything about a credit union crisis right now because a credit union is run by the people who are involved in it who would have said that we are not going to get involved in that sort of thing. I see I'm making some points here in the background. Yeah, it's one of those things that it absolutely shows that on a massive scale, that's when government starts to fail us. The idea that we can work together as a group of people is a strong one. And we know what happens. Whenever you get together people in a community, people want to put their shoulder to the wheel. They want to help out. They want to move things along. I'm always happy to put my shoulder to the wheel to help something to happen. What I don't want to do is put my neck in a yoke. I don't want federal government to say, you got to pull this cart now.
Yeah, and one of the sensationalist moves that's kind of come up with this spending budget situation at the State House was the government called a press conference to roll out a new web feature that allows the public to view maps of all of the 200 House and Senate districts and pinpoint the types of investments of public schools, roads, and bridges that lawmakers will be saying no to if they reject the governor's $1.9 billion tax increase. So basically, he's making an interactive map for people to actually go and look at what the problem areas are going to be if nobody agrees to his budget plan, rather than going out and convincing people that this budget plan is a good idea and going out and saying these are the revenue streams that we need to look at. Like, to me, that just kind of exemplifies this whole discussion about passing the buck and people taking responsibility on it.
For me, it's an interesting thing. Deval Patrick and I disagree on a lot of core issues, but I respect a lot of the stuff that he has done as governor. I mean, part of it, he has cut the budget more than any governor in Massachusetts history. Now, one of the reasons why is that Massachusetts requires a balanced budget, and the economy has tanked more during his administration than anybody else's. I'm not saying it's his fault. The economy tanked. It had nothing to do with Deval Patrick being in office. But he was there, and he was a pretty good steward of how the budget got spent. Putting these things up, for me, being informed about what my tax money is going to go to, I actually like that idea. You don't need to lobby me one way or the other. You present me with the information, I'm happy to make an informed decision on it. I don't want the governor to tell me which way I should vote. If he wants to put up a website and say, these are the places where the jobs are going to get cut, that's not the worst idea to me. At least I can make an informed decision then when I vote on it. Because there's not enough money to go around to everybody's pet project. What we have to do is say, what is the most important thing? I'm not sure that they're talking about cutting spending in absolutely the possible best way. And the one other thing I'll say about this is that when government talks about cutting spending, it's so different from the rest of us in the way we cut spending. So I've been through situations. I was laid off in 2000. We had to adjust our family budget. My wife was laid off last year. We had to adjust our budget because of it. When that happened, we looked at what we were spending and we said, okay, how do we make what we're spending equal what we're coming out with? Government is the only place that says, okay, the amount of money that's coming in is less, so we're going to spend more now. Yeah. Everybody can survive a 5% cut to their budget. And in fact, I would argue that a 5% to your budget probably makes you more efficient because there's fat in every budget. Fat that we don't realize that we're spending. Like one of the things that they talk about right now, the government's saying, the federal government is saying that they're going to be crushed by this cut. But one of the things that they're talking about is the fact that their travel budgets are going to be cut. It is 2013. Skype is available. You don't necessarily need to travel for all these face-to-face meetings that used to happen. Maybe this is a chance to where we can say, you know what? Maybe this budget cut is going to help us to get a little bit more efficient. Embrace it. Don't fight it.
All right. What do you have next, Casey?
Next up is, let's see, featured legislation. Actually, there are 5 bills coming through the House, which we're very excited about. The ACLU has been.
These are the good bills.
These are the good bills,
not the Bruce killing us bills.
Yeah, not those.
All right.
Sorry. Excuse me. So we have 5 bills coming through the House that the ACLU has kind of been pushing along, sponsoring, talking to folks about with the hard work of state representatives and folks in Senate. It's the Electronic Privacy Act, settling out warrant requirements for phone, internet, and location tracking. If you're interested in learning about that, it is S796 and H1684, corresponding House bill. The License Plate Privacy Act, regulating automatic license plate readers. That's brought by Cream and Hecht. That is S1648, H3068, and that's the Senate bill and corresponding House bill. The Free Speech Act, ending surveillance on political activity. Thank fucking God. Not going to go after the Veterans for Peace anymore. Are you kidding me? They're the nicest ladies on the face of the planet. Like, who would want to go after Veterans for Peace?
I just put a video out with one of them. Yeah, from Saturday, and at the Boston Commons. Great speech about Bradley Manning. Crazy.
Just stunning.
And she was like a grandmother lady.
Yeah, there's a woman who comes down to every single march. And her
I bet that's her.
Her name's Joan.
Yeah.
And she's the sweetest woman on the face of the planet. Like, would never.
I think that's who
in
I
a million
got
years.
speech.
Like long hair,
yes.
glasses.
Yep.
Absolutely wonderful human being.
She gave a great speech.
Yeah, gives amazing hugs too.
Yeah.
But she was one of the most supportive people when I was walking from Boston to DC. Like, she was getting in touch with me. She was making sure that I was okay. When I saw her in DC, she was not DC. When I saw her in New York, she was overwhelmingly supportive of what I was doing, and she always has been, and I know she always will be. And that's just an earmark of that organization, is everybody that I've met through VFP is just stunning. And I'm so glad that this bill is coming through. The Drone Privacy Act, which regulates the use of unmanned aerial vehicles. That's from Hudland and Rep. Gary, and that is S1664.
Who is it? Headland?
Headland.
Oh, I know Bob. That's good. Some of his bills, I'm just like, oh, dude, why are you so focused on the illegals? I thought you were a libertarian, Bob.
Yeah.
But that's a good bill.
That is a good bill.
Good job, Bob Headland.
So that's S1664. Corresponding House bill is H1357. And then the Passport Protection Act, which is keeping social media private. and that is by Cream and Rep. Coakley Rivera.
So that's Cynthia Cream. A couple good bills from her too.
Yeah.
It's about time. Like these laws basically are setting the limits on what the state government and the prosecutors can do. And hopefully, I don't even know. We need to find out. Hopefully, they set limits on the feds too. I don't know if they can, but like basically, if we're recorded as an activist somewhere in an event, say at the Freedom Rally, it's a question of how long do they get to have that copy of the video? Do they have it for 2 weeks and then they destroy it when there's no case or investigation, or do they keep it in a database forever to share it with whoever they like?
At whomever's request.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Are there rules? That's basically what these bills are setting is basically we need some rules. Like, just like with credit, like, anything where there's information about you, you want some rules for the corporation and the government so that your information isn't lost. It isn't hacked. It isn't stolen. It isn't misconstrued. It isn't sold.
Yep, exactly.
And you have rights to it as an activist to know if the federal government is investigating you without a warrant. I think that should be a human right at this point too. Like if the federal government has a file on Mike Cann and my activism, I want to know about it. I want to know what my file is about. I know if there's a crime and they're charging me, I can't necessarily see it all, but I think I can through a lawyer. I think that's what you do. You share the information.
I mean, technically,
if there's no charges, why shouldn't I be able to find out what they're investigating?
Yeah, technically the law still is innocent until proven guilty, not let's build a case until we arrest the motherfucker.
I know, forever. And let's not have we're coming to a point in technology where they'll be able to have a case against anybody they want at any time by just researching the tapes.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're gonna forget to pick up the poop once on your dog.
Like
you're gonna take a left when you should have, had a stop sign.
You're gonna not shovel your sidewalk when you're supposed to shovel at the city.
Something's gonna happen.
If I'd been born 30 years later, it would have started with me vandalizing that bus seat in elementary school.
Yeah. All the things you've never been caught on, and now once you raise your hand at a city hall meeting or go against Big Brother, the button is pressed, and now you're looking at 10 infractions and all this, this payment and money and pain. The IRS is at your door. You're being audited.
I would even take it a step further than that. I think you should have access to all the information that anybody has collected about you, not just the government. I want to know what the credit unions know about me. I want to know what the local school board
for
thinks
free
about me.
Just like the credit reports.
Right,
You're supposed to get those free, right?
Exactly right. And I think this is an excellent idea, Mike, because it's absolutely true. We live in the era of big data. There's no way around it. We can't go back to the time when computers didn't exist. They're going to record everything. If it's not the government, it's going to be a private corporation. Somebody's recording something all the time.
And then they sell it to the government.
Yeah,
That's what Trapwire showed with this Barrett Brown. He discovered that the government, through Department of Homeland Security and probably the CIA, funding private corporations to illegally spy on U.S. citizens in the streets of America. They have basically microphones. They're putting them in buses in San Francisco. Department of Homeland Security is funding this to spy on people on the public transport in San Francisco to protect against terrorism.
Yeah, I mean,
where do those recordings go? How long are they kept? Who gets to see them?
And that's the thing is that, if you think about the idea of a statute of limitations that we have for crime, there's a 7-year period in which we say, okay, after 7 years, you can't be charged for a crime. But here, this information lives on for forever. And you never know when it's going to come back. And especially if you think about what happens with the suspension of habeas corpus with the National Defense Authorization Act, now that they can lock you up under suspicion of terrorism, what constitutes suspicion of terrorism? Does me showing up on a web radio show, talking bad things about the current government, does that mean that I am suspicious of terrorism? It probably does. At some point in time when they say, oh, you didn't consent to a body search either at the airport, that's 2 strikes right there.
Yeah.
Third thing, they're going to take me.
Yeah, and then you find yourself in a federal splash zone because some foreign dignitaries visiting, and the next thing you know, you're never heard from again.
Right. That's exactly it. And there's that whole thing, too. If the president comes to town, they have these special authorities that Special Service has now within certain areas. And so that's another thing that, I've always worried about is because, in Boston, you never know who's going to come through here. What am I going to set off in terms of saying, oh, yeah, Dan Fishman, he's dangerous. He's not a Republican. He's not a Democrat. That's dangerous.
Can we cut that? for a promo?
That's the new campaign promo for Dan Fishman.
Dan Fishman's dangerous.
So
So-
We're just about done with the news this week.
Yep.
Do
Just
we have something else?
wrapping it
Wrap
up. Jodie Emery is running for the BC Green Party candidate.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to give people a heads up on where they could find all of this amazing news. Go to masspoliticalprofs.com, go to masslive.com, know your enemy, go to Progressive Mass, and then find out where they're getting their news from, because they rarely ever print anything. Check out the patch websites here in Massachusetts. You can definitely find some good news on the patch websites, specifically Beverly and Peabody. You're going to be hearing stuff from them for the political bent. The Boston Phoenix Talking Politics with David Bernstein is stunning. It makes me laugh every time. I have a secret lady crush on David Bernstein.
He's the best political reporter in Massachusetts right now.
Absolutely stunning. Also, I gotta drop it. Chris Faraone had an amazing article in the Phoenix this week on Nadia Naff.
I read the whole thing. It was
Stunning.
like how many people?
Bucking.
Like 10
Stunning.
pages.
10,000 words.
I've been following that thing for a while. I didn't actually know what was going on.
Stunning.
Totally. But it's a very interesting take to see what Chris did with that. Wow.
As always, Valerie.
Wow. He's probably going to get like a Pulitzer Prize for that. Chris, when you get the whatever prize you're going to get for your writing, because that's like on that level, like I hope you remember that you got your first start on it and on the radio. I think he's probably done other radio shows, but it was really here at Unregular Radio. You've blown up.
Yep. He's definitely.
Don't forget.
And then, of course,
he's fucking killing it. You have to see it in the Phoenix. Say the name of the story for Chris Faraone. It's from his new book too. There's part 2 coming out. What's the name of this again?
The name of the story is called The Trials of Nadia Naff. It's a tie-in to his book about Andrew Breitbart, which is dropping in June.
Who was his? They had a meltdown on WRKL too.
Yeah, they
Faraone
did.
and
Breitbart.
Like Faraone's our friend, right? We love him, and I was listening to him that day, and I felt bad. Like when I heard the re-recording when Breitbart died, they played it again. They were playing it again and again and again.
Yeah, they
and
really.
Chris
just
really
hammered
went
that one
after.
home.
Actually, was it on RKO or was it another station? I'm trying to remember which one.
I think it was RKO.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm trying to think though, like who would let Faraone destroy Breitbart like that on RKO, but I can't remember whose show he was on.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, if you Google search Chris Faraone, Andrew Breitbart, it's one of the first results that comes up.
So wow, I can't wait to see this book. And
then of course, always read The Burning Question with Valerie Vande. She's always looking out for you. The questions that people are writing in about cannabis reform, about the technicalities of cannabis.
Ask the Duchess.
Ask the Duchess
on Twitter.
Hit
her up with your questions.
Absolutely.
And she's coming in. We're going to be talking to her later on the show. Also, our big news.
Yes.
That hopefully we'll get a lot of these folks that we have in the studio and that we're talking about, the local people. The activists, the politicians, the journalists, and the musicians. We want you all out on our big event that we just announced that we're doing Tuesday, April 23rd.
At Brighton Music Hall.
Brighton Music Hall. It's the TWO HOTHEADS Activism Awards.
I was really shocked by the poll results.
Yeah, you're doing well, aren't you?
I'm really amazed that I'm in second.
Yeah. I like it because it's competitive. There's a lot of good people.
Like, it just feel like
some people I think should be doing better.
Like, what am I doing anywhere near KOP?
Well,
like, what am I doing anywhere near Diane Russell?
I laugh.
Like,
I know, huh?
It's like, I mean, there are these people who are career activists. Jodie Emery is 28 years old. She's running for the BC Candidate Green Party. I'm 28 years old and have been like laid off from 2 jobs in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
like,
but you're involved and people
so
like you.
it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, there's such a huge dichotomy.
There is, and there's so many. That's what's so good about
I'm
this
honored.
thing.
I'm very, very honored. I wasn't complaining by any means. I'm honored to be included.
It's pretty cool. It's when you look at like basically we did the first one, and it's the guests. So it's people who have been guests on this show that are activists. So who are your best guest activists? And so it kind of sometimes it's like almost it allows, I think, in this category to be more about people's personal taste too. And some people have listened to the show who are voting. Some people actually haven't. They're just voting for their favorite person. Yeah. We know this.
People find me tasty.
But people like you. And then they also like the King of Pot. He didn't even know. He's been like hiding. And I'm like, dude, you're like leading this poll and you haven't asked anyone.
Yeah.
Like, you should just hide and hermit.
Is the mic working?
Yeah, right there though.
Test. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. The King of Pot.
I did not even know until probably about 72 hours ago. I haven't even
You've been leading the polls the whole time.
Well, at first,
I wanna listen.
Diane Russell was in the lead.
Was she?
Yeah, she had a good lead, and then you and KLP took over.
I want to
Still
thank
close.
everybody that's voting. Thank you very much for not forgetting me. I know I've been away for a little while. I've had my own little personal things happening, like yourself. I'm laid off after 28 plus years at the same job. So we're doing this full time now, so there'll be more stuff coming.
And we'll be talking to King of Pot a little more on the show. Some of the other people too, like Greg Hausch.
Yep.
He's up there.
Frank Capone's on there.
Capone. These are the top vote gators. Vermin Supreme's
Vermin
another one
Supreme
that's
is
got a
another
lot of
good one.
votes. Like these are like we talked about Faraone.
Yep.
Like if you look at it right now, Diane Russell's in the lead for politicians by far.
Yeah.
And I think Dan Fishman's in second actually.
I think I have 4 votes, so.
That's second, I believe. Politicians don't get a lot of votes around here.
It's only an 8-vote spread.
Yeah,
so
I was going to ask, what's the top count?
14 votes.
14, all right.
Yeah, we opened the poll, I think, last week.
Let me tell my parents. Got a couple more.
Right? Take advantage of the social network.
Exactly right.
Exactly. And so there's like, when you look at it too, it's like they allow you to vote multiple times. It's like it says like there's 400 and something votes or something like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But
so basically, we're doing this event April 23rd.
yes, which is a Tuesday.
Yeah, which is Tuesday, and we know that Greg Hausch is speaking.
Yep.
Frank and I are going to be there.
Yep.
Dexter's going to be there speaking.
Yep.
You're going to be there on
I
stage.
am going to be there.
Are you going to be there, King of Pot, speaking on the stage?
Do
Will
you
you
want-
accept our invitation to speak on the stage?
Yes, I will.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Daniel Fishman?
I would be thrilled. I'd be
All right.
thrilled if you want me to come.
When is the election?
The election is June 25th. I will know whether or not I'm on the ballot April 3rd.
All right. So this might be a perfect time.
Yeah,
This might be a
primaries-
campaign speech for you.
It may be. If we get a little lucky, it might be.
It's gonna. Are you gonna have? What do you have to? Well, we'll get more.
Yeah.
We'll get more into that about what it's gonna take to get you on the ballot.
Exactly.
All right.
So the last thing to keep yourself informed
For the news
is to sign up for the State House News Service. They have a weekly rundown that goes out on Fridays. Just go to their website, sign up for it.
Can you post that link because I need to get on that.
Absolutely. It is a
Good
very,
one.
very basic rundown on the press releases from the State House. Granted, by no means does it encompass all of the bazillions of things that come out of the news service every week, but it does give you a very general rundown of what's going on, and it gives you a thing to aim for when you're Googling. So I highly recommend that.
Good. Be involved, especially in Massachusetts if you're here.
Get educated, be involved.
I felt we get more news. Oh, Jodie Emery too. You mentioned.
Yes,
her.
mention Jodie Emery.
She,
Well, there was also there was the Cahill debacle, but I saw we were running long, and I figured who really wants to talk about Cahill? There's a great article on Mass Political Profs about how the Globe kind of stepped on its dick.
all right. With
So-
Jodie Emery
Yes.
going to be on the show next week, so make sure everyone listens. This will be we're doing like a campaign season right now. We had Diane Russell, we got our next guest,
Yep.
and then we have Jodie Emery. So that'll be 3 weeks in a row, and then hopefully in the 4th week we'll get another candidate.
I
that we're
really
working
think
on.
that Leah Cole should call in or come in.
You brought it up. Did you see what you saw? What happened, didn't you?
I mean, she's running for state rep.
Yeah. But did you see how I kind of went after her?
A little bit. I did see that a little bit.
I went after her.
I noticed that you got a little curmudgeon-y.
Yeah. Well, like Leah Cole, she's freaking. You're talking about Bruce Tarr last week, right?
Yeah.
And she's running as the Liberty candidate. Ron Paul's sending me shit in the mail because I sent him money, and it says, "Send Leah Cole money. Here's her address. Here's an envelope to Linfield, Mass." And I'm just like, all right. And she's posing with Bruce Tarr, Mr. who hates my marijuana freedom, who hates a lot of freedom,
Yeah.
who seems like he just he's a neocon that wants to look like he's socially
He's
nice
very,
and mass, but
very
he's a neocon.
moderate. He's
Yeah, come
very
on.
sneaky moderate.
Yeah, and then we invite her on the show, multiple channels, and never get a response.
Radio silence.
Nothing.
Literally.
It's like you can't talk to us. Never mind be on the. You can't even have a human conversation with us. Like we're going to support you more and get you more votes than Bruce Tarr. I hate to tell you.
Just saying.
True.
Leah Cole, you should come on air. I mean, I think that if you're an upstanding Liberty candidate, you'll be willing to come in and talk to an upstanding Libertarian and somebody who doesn't really care that much about big government.
And one of the candidates got back to me too, who's a Liberty candidate. He's for city council. He might come on the show. I mean, for school committee. Evan, he was a Republican delegate, And he basically said, I would have, I like when I posted something about it, he said, I would have taken a picture with Bruce Tarr. Oh, in fact, I actually did. What am I supposed to do when he comes to my event? It's not, you don't want to alienate someone who's a leader in the Republican Party when you're running as a Republican. And I said, yeah, you're right. I would have done the same thing. But the question is, why not respond to us?
Exactly. We're not, it isn't even like you're asking her to explain herself. You're saying, come on air and talk about what you're doing running for state rep. Not
even
come
by
on
phone
air
call.
And we'll sandbag you about Bruce Tarr.
Yeah.
That never came up.
No, we're naturally want to support her candidacy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if she's for what she says she's about, which is frugality, family values, she's not. She's talking about being fiscally responsible. She's talking about accountability on the state level. Like, those are things that I can get behind at least.
Yeah.
Like, so if she has anything else intelligent to say, rock and roll.
Exactly. And she's
also 24.
A nurse. She's an I know, that's the other thing. I got to give her a break. But no, the thing that gets me though is that obviously there are bigger people behind her. She's only 24, like you said. She's a rising star. She's a young, let's put it this way, she's a young, pretty girl who has a good job, which is being an RN, which is, that shows that. I look at a 24-year-old woman who's an RN as like, wow, she's doing it.
Yeah, she got balls.
I give her
Yeah.
and I think all people do. And so I think she has that going for her, but I also know if that Ron Paul is sending me a fucking letter in the mail, and these other people I know are all behind her, and they know what's going on, and I'm friends with them in some respects, and have other friends who are friends, and they're not getting back to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck's going on. This is our...
Well, you're 100% right, too, that, to get the Ron Paul, the Campaign for Liberty people to send an email out for you, or a mail out for you, that has nothing to do with your merits as a candidate, because I feel like I'm everything they want. I cannot get a phone call returned from those
politics.
guys. It's totally connection.
Yeah. And so those people, that's who I was really speaking to. And one of them actually responded and said, we'll get her on in March, so we'll see what happens.
All right. We'll see if
he
they
didn't make
follow
any
through.
promises, but he publicly acknowledged. And that's what you want to see. Like, I want to know what the frick's going on. And he gave me reasons why she might not be so interested in it. And I can understand some of them, but I responded with my reasons why she should come on this show. Christ, I'm from that area.
Yeah.
You know how we have a lot of my friends and family live up there.
Yep.
I want to send them the video and say, she was on my show and you should listen to her and go vote for her. And they'll go, okay.
Yeah.
More than that, if you really want to represent the issues of liberty, you have to be willing to take the tough questions. Because how are you going to stand up for liberty in a situation, in a society, which has really gone away from it? The only way things are going to change is for us to take bold stands. And bold stands should mean answering any question that comes to you.
Exactly.
Even if
Not
by
to be
answering
afraid.
that question, you're saying, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes that's the best possible answer that you can give.
That is the best.
I'm just as ignorant as you are.
I
Let's
know.
find out together.
Exactly. That's the way you should be in most things in life until you have come to a point that you knock it on the wood until you know where that beam is.
Yep, exactly.
And there's only one show in Massachusetts, in the world and beyond, that I will not appear and answer those hard questions. There's only one show.
What's that?
The show that I've already
Fox
got
News in the morning?
No, I would do them in a second. I would do a Riley. I would do any of them. Anybody. There's only one show, and I've actually been on the show. I got punked by them.
Oh, no.
It's our producer's show, Rob Kaufman. But I might come back on it. We'll see. He's got a big show this week. Today, he's moved to Saturdays, right,
Yeah,
Rob?
new time.
New
Saturday,
time,
6
Saturdays
to 9.
What is it?
6 to 9.
He's in the 6 to 9 position. But, so that was the news this week, and we got through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Rob
It ran a little
Kaufman
longer than
did it.
normal.
Yeah. That's all right.
I apologize for jumping in. I couldn't shut up.
Well, we started the interview early. We're going to
There we
take a
go.
break, and we're going to come back with candidate for U.S. Senate in Massachusetts, Libertarian Dan Fishman.
Uncensored, unregulated radio.